Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our Faculty ePortfolio Showcase at LaGuardia Community College. If you're joining us from outside the college, welcome to virtual LaGuardia. We're very happy to have you here. We're going to begin our session. This is our Faculty ePortfolio Showcase, and my name is Pablo Avila. I am the Associate Director of ePortfolio and Digital Learning at the Center for Teaching and Learning, and I'm going to be facilitating this session. Thank you very much for being here. We also welcome folks who are coming from outside LaGuardia, from other CUNY colleges, and if you're a colleague from Education, welcome to you as well. A couple of logistics: there will be live captioning that it's available. This session is being recorded so that we can share the recording later on. So we will go ahead and begin. This event is a faculty showcase, one that we haven't done in quite some time, I should say. It will feature LaGuardia faculty from across different disciplines. You're going to hear from them in just a moment. You're going to hear them speak about their ePortfolio practice and the ways in which they have used ePortfolio over time in their programs, but particularly during distance learning. We are living very difficult times, to say the least. So faculty across the country have had to grapple with moving their courses to an online environment. And at LaGuardia, many have used the ePortfolio as an advantage to move seamlessly to an online environment. We're going to see different examples of how that has happened. LaGuardia's ePortfolio practice is comprised of a core ePortfolio, an ePortfolio that follows a student from beginning to end. A student is introduced to his or her ePortfolio in the first year seminar course. And that ePortfolio template is one that the student uses along the way. And as you will see in the different presentations, the student is able to add general education coursework, program-based and discipline-based coursework and assignments that by the end become into a more robust and also visually powerful ePortfolio. And we're going to see that. I want to do a quick share out of our practice and what LaGuardia faculty are doing. These are only a couple of examples of things that we are currently doing. I'm going to put all of these links in the chat so that you are able to access all of this information. Let me go ahead and do that very quickly. They will be going into the chat momentarily. Professor Clarence Chant from the Health Sciences Department has published an article called ePortfolio and Service Learning, a tale of two cities connected by two high impact practices. We're going to share the information in the chat soon so that you're able to read about that work. The AACNU as well is doing a digital learning and ePortfolio forum in January of 2021, and LaGuardia will be represented as well. One of those presentations will be by Professors Dimitri Kapitanakos from English, Tonya Hendricks from Natural Sciences, and Dean Dion Miller from Academic Affairs. And they will be speaking about structuring the core ePortfolio practice in the liberal arts. Education also recently released a podcast, and their first episode featured Professor Clarence Chant from the Health Sciences Department talking about his ePortfolio practice. So we encourage you to listen to it, and we thank Education for featuring Professor Chen. There's also more resources on the website, the LaGuardia's ePortfolio website, that will show you a much more in-depth example of how faculty at LaGuardia use ePortfolio. We're going to share those links in the chat so that you're able to learn how LaGuardia faculty use ePortfolio. And finally, I'm also going to share the link for our student showcase, which is happening on Thursday, the 19th at 1 p.m., where you will see 4 students from different disciplines sharing their ePortfolio work. So if you are a LaGuardia faculty member, just a couple of general reminders. There are virtual workshops that the ePortfolio team is offering. If you're a faculty member teaching a class that it's designated for college-wide assessment or PLO assessment, There are resources that you can share with your students. We're going to share all of that information in the chat so that you can get access to that as well. And obviously there's ePortfolio tutorials that the ePortfolio team has put together as well. So I'm going to move along here, and I want to welcome Dean Eric Hoffman from Academic Affairs and the Director of the Center for Teaching and Learning as well for some welcome remarks. Dean Hoffman.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Pablo. And thank you everyone for being here, those of you who are presenting, and those of you who are here just to support that work and to learn more and to see what your colleagues have been doing. Pablo and I were just in a meeting with President Adams and several of the faculty who have been implementing COIL projects, the Collaborative Online International Learning projects. And President Adams picked up right away on how doing that kind of work, many of those faculty and some of their students were likely prepared for this move to distance learning. And I think about the work of Portfolio as well, and having a space where students have already been practicing in digital environments could have been a very helpful tool. So I'm looking forward to hearing about from the faculty who are presenting about how this work has been especially effective during this time. So Pablo mentioned the ePortfolio and the core portfolio practice that we have in about half of our academic programs. I just wanted to go back to the beginning of this with ePortfolio pedagogy and really thinking about how the ePortfolio supports and facilitates students sort of integrative social pedagogy and integrative social learning that happens in these spaces. So, this is about learning, and the portfolio seems to be a unique tool for that. It seems to be unique to helping students build their identity. I think you'll see that in some of these examples today. So thanks for sticking around for this. Thank you to Pablo and all of the ePortfolio team that is here. And all the faculty who are involved in not just the practice of ePortfolio, but all the professional development and the support that has been put in place over the years in building this culture of ePortfolio practice at the college. So thank you, and thanks to all of you for presenting, and I hope I also see some of you at the Student Showcase on Thursday.
Thank you, Dean Hoffman. We're going to move ahead a little bit about the format and logistics. We're going to hear the presentations from each of the faculty. And at the end of each presentation, there will be a chance for a brief comment or question for the presenter. There will be at the end also time for discussions and additional questions. We encourage you to use the chat feature so that you can submit your questions as you hear the presentations. I will be sure to monitor that and raise those questions as we move along. Our faculty presenters will go in this order. Professor Preethi Radhakrishnan from the Natural Sciences Department will begin. We'll hear them from Professor Praveen Khethavath from the Mathematics, Engineering, and Computer Science Department, followed by Professor Leah Richards from the English Department. Professor Michele Malone from the Education and Language Acquisition will then show us the work that has happened in her department. And then Professor Dominique Zino, also from the English Department, will follow, and we will end our round of presentations with Professor Jessica Boehman from the Humanities Department. Once again, at the end of each presentation, there will be time for a quick question and a comment. And then at the very end of the event, of the presentations, there will be time for discussion. So I encourage everyone to use the chat feature so that you can submit your questions as we move along. So without further ado, now it's my pleasure to introduce our faculty colleagues, and we'll begin with Preethi.
Thanks, Pablo. Hi, everyone. It's great to see everybody here. Just going to share my screen. So it's been an interesting ride, I'm sure, for all of us in this past semester, 2 semesters, I should say. But in the natural sciences, we're kind of attempting to cultivate ePortfolio as a meta high impact practice. And this is something that we've described in 2 of the book chapters that we've submitted together as colleagues. And I think it's, and as Eric and Pablo were mentioning, our work over the past 3.5 to 4 years now has really prepared us for our assessment of our program goals, our college competencies, both at the departmental level and at the college-wide level. And so today I thought I'll talk a little bit about shift a little bit away from our departmental trajectories and talk more about how I've been using Portfolio within my courses in specific. So these are the top ePortfolio strategies I've been using this semester. The first is, and I think many of you are probably going to share this as well, is creating a course ePortfolio. I'm going to show you examples of these in a little bit, but a course ePortfolio allows me to use it not only as a course management system, but also link it to my course management system. So currently what I've been doing is using ePortfolio, a course ePortfolio in my first year seminar as the course management system. My students don't use Blackboard. They don't use any other course management system. They only use ePortfolio. And I think at the first year level, that's helpful in many ways because you're doing less navigating of systems. But in my higher level courses, what I've started doing is I'm now linking the ePortfolio. I have a course ePortfolio, but then I link it to my learning management system like Blackboard in the case of human anatomy and physiology. And I'll show you an example of how I've been doing that. I find this really helpful because all of my material, be it synchronous and asynchronous, lives in one place. And then I can link it just by hyperlinks to my course management system where all of my grading lives. So my grading lives in Blackboard, my discussion boards live in Blackboard. And so I've been able to seamlessly move between the two. So I use it, I've been using the course ePortfolio site for both asynchronous learning, where I allow students, I have specific modules where I point them to specific resources within the course ePortfolio site on a weekly basis to go review. And then when they show up to class, I'm going over specific case studies, I'm going over the content with them, we're doing quizzes, exams, so on and so forth, to kind of understand how much of the content they've learned. I also use it in other sense. I'm not teaching asynchronous, purely asynchronous. I do a combination of synchronous and asynchronous. And so I use it then to supplement my synchronous learning. I've been really thinking hard about using portfolios in formative assessment. I really do enjoy doing formative assessment, and I find it more powerful than summative assessment. Bell and Kokawi describe formative assessment as when students and teachers and students can both respond to enhanced student learning during the learning rather than after the learning is completed, which is what we usually tend to do, particularly in the sciences. We emphasize a lot of summative assessment where we're doing a lot of quizzes, midterms and tests. And I feel like that's kind of a disadvantage to students because you really can't capture the learning as efficiently. And the portfolio is such a wonderful place to really understand how that formative learning is happening. And I kind of knew this already, but the distance learning has really pushed me to understand how much more important it is, particularly with the use of ePortfolio. Transversal skills, this is a new word that I learned over the summer. I kind of learned it when we were doing the CUNY SBS online training thing within the CUNY system. It's from this paper by Torres et al. And what it talks about is skills such as cognitive processing, analytical and conceptual thinking, achievement in terms of efficiency, proactivity, being organized, autonomy, accuracy. I mean, all of these we know now are so important when you're doing distance learning, right? Having a student know how to be proactive with an assignment and ask a professor a question ahead of time, particularly when they're being asynchronous, organizing their time between all of their classes, and thinking analytically. I think all of these are skills that are super important when we move, particularly with distance learning, when there's a lot of autonomy that's required. And I think the portfolio has enabled students to kind of understand, or rather have me explain to them the importance or value of that, and kind of show them, because you're doing the formative assessment with them, show them how and why these skills are important. For example, in FYS, we do time management, we do graded low stakes to high stakes assignments, so on and so forth. And so you're teaching them these skills. So now let me show you really quickly some examples of my student work. How much time do I have, Pablo?
I would say 3 more minutes.
Okay, thanks.
5 more minutes should be fine, yes. While you do that, a quick reminder to everyone to use the chat feature so that you can share your comments, questions for later. Thank you. Back to you, Preethi.
Mm-hmm. So I'm going to show you first, I'm going to show you 2 of my course portfolios. This is my first year seminar portfolio. I have a general welcome message here. I have some pictures of students doing fun environmental science and biology things. I talk about what the core portfolio is and about establishing your identity. And I have some links to student portfolios who were previous ePortfolio scholars, so that students can right away go in there and kind of have a look to see what good work looks like. And there's also information. I talk in the first day of class about how well these students are doing. You know, they've been using their portfolios to get internships. They've been using their portfolios to get scholarships. They've been using their portfolios for transfer. And so I talked to them the first day of class about the importance of a portfolio in terms of just beyond the classroom. And that kind of helps them understand the value of it. I also have my syllabus up here, which is just a PDF. I've listed all of my homework up here. So the first, second, and third homework. I have it both as a PDF file, which they can download and use for their own. And so whenever I go to the class resources, for example, and if we're in week 2, where we're exploring the natural sciences major, I have the activity. So I actually use this as my lesson plan. So I'll hit week 2 and I'll screencast this and I'll say, okay, we're going to begin our college competency activity, and I'll go over our activity. Then we'll go over their assigned reading, which is what can I do with a major in biology, how to think like a scientist. This is all of the assigned reading from the previous week. And it's all here. So they know where to find everything. It's all in one place, and it's all tabulated under weeks, right? So it's all in one place. I have their 2 major assignments in first year seminar, are their research paper and their digital story. I have the rubrics for the digital paper and the digital story already embedded into the course ePortfolio site. I spent a lot of time talking to them about the importance of the rubrics and how I use them in grading. This is actually a collaborative document that we made together as a class this time. We had a Google Doc, and we kind of collaboratively typed out our research questions, and I had them turn their research questions into a claim and add in a peer-reviewed citation. And I actually just copy-pasted or linked that here so that students can find it if and when they need it. And that's the research paper. What's interesting is that my SSMs have also gotten on board with my course portfolio, and they have their own studio hour plans that they update. So I've given them access. I've made them administrators so they can go in here and, you know, they have their resources for week 2. They kind of put in here and let the students know. So students are now not navigating 2 different resources. It's just one site that they go to, which I think is really helpful. So this is my first year seminar portfolio. Let me show you a course site. Let me show you the human anatomy and physiology course site. I use these very differently, by the way. My human anatomy and physiology course site is linked to my Blackboard. So I use this as an addendum to my course management system. So here I have the syllabi up on the first page. I have a bunch of how-to videos, which get students started on how to succeed in A&P, how to use Blackboard, how to use Mastering, which is their other course site, how to use Flipgrid. These are all the how-tos for A&P. And these are the lists for anatomy and physiology. I'll have them all in one place. And then the lectures, I have the lecture handout, I have the lecture video, and then I have any additional animations or videos that I think would be helpful for them. It's all here. So let me show you really quickly how I've linked them. So this is my course on my Blackboard site. So if I go to my Blackboard site, and if I go to my weekly modules, I just have links there. So if I click on link 1, it'll take me straight to the course ePortfolio site. And here I have all of the information here ready. And students seem to really like this. They like that from Blackboard, they can go to Portfolio. I never thought about doing this before, and I think I'm going to continue doing this from here on out. If I have 2 more minutes, I'll show you some student portfolios. This is Nadezhda. Nadezhda is in my class this semester. We also do this fun activity in first year all the way through capstone, which is we ask students to build a STEM identity. And I think Nadezhda has started to do a really good job. She's interested in hydrology. She's an environmental science major. And I see her becoming a ePortfolio scholar. Her work is really good. And this is the STEM identity section where students kind of build their identity within the realms of competence, performance, and recognition. And so what they do here is they create a digital collage of their work and their learning, and they write reflections about how their identity is evolving and changing over time. And so this is Nadezhda's first semester, and you can see that she's doing experiments at home as part of her biology class. She's doing osmosis and diffusion experiments at home, which I think are really wonderful. And this is on her own accord. She's not doing it because a teacher asked her to do it. She's doing it because she thinks it's fun. And you can see this is a core ePortfolio. So all of their assignments are already preloaded into their template. We call these signature assignments. So first year seminar is stage 1, general biology 1 and chemistry 1 are stage 2, general biology 2 and chemistry 2 are stage 3, and capstone is the final stage. So we've actually have them deposit their signature assignments for assessment purposes. And we score, norm and score and read these assignments at the departmental level and also at the college-wide level. We're actually currently revising our rubrics for our program to make specific rubrics for our program outcomes, program learning objectives right now. That's what we're doing. Victoria is further along. She's in capstone right now, and you can see that her portfolio is more of a showcase portfolio. I can show you some of her assignments really quickly. This is her 201 assignment, and you can see that she's done a really great job kind of reflecting about her assignment. I mean, that's her assignment, but she's also written a reflection about what that assignment means and how her learning has changed from first year to Gen Bio 1. And I'll take you all the way to fundamentals of biotechniques. So you can see all of these are her other assignments. And then she's currently in cell biology. So she has a presentation here that she's uploaded. That's about it. I don't want to take up any more time, but I'll stop there.
That's fantastic work, Preethi. Thank you so very much. I put a quick comment in the chat. The reference to the SSM is the Student Success Mentor, who is a student mentor who works with first-year seminar students in helping them build their ePortfolio, but also share their college success stories. So we're going to transition to Praveen in a moment, but I want to open it up for a quick question or comment, given the work that we've heard from Preethi. Anyone? And you're welcome to use the chat, or if you feel more comfortable, unmute yourself as well. One of the things that came up in the chat, unless anybody would like to chime in, it's the how purposeful this work is and the connection between Blackboard and ePortfolio, especially during distance learning when students have had to navigate multiple platforms.
Yeah, so I see also that Jessica's asked a question about how did you link to Blackboard. Do you want me to show it real quick, Pablo? Do I have time, or should I just explain it?
You can show it very quickly if you want. Okay. Sure. And while Preethi does that, just a quick plugging, Victoria, the student whose portfolio Preethi showcased very briefly, will be part of the showcase on Thursday, and the link is on the chat. So if you want to check that out.
Yeah, so all I do is I go here to, I'm actually going to copy paste a link here. So whatever your link to your pages, like for instance, if I want to create a link to this, so I'm going to copy paste this and I'm going to have it. So I just right clicked and copy pasted this link. This is a link that I want to link to in my course, in my Blackboard. And I go here and I go build content and I just go web link and I type in the URL and I'll say test here and I'll just say submit. And you need to make sure though, so it'll show up at the very bottom as a test. And so if I click that, it'll take me straight to the page. But what's important here is you need to make your course ePortfolio available to the entire college or to everyone. If you don't do that, then there's no way that other students can see it. That's the only caveat. I hope that's helpful, Jessica.
Preethi, so you've linked the ePortfolio to the Blackboard, but not the other way around.
No.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I was hoping for, that magic
No,
solution where they could get right into the Blackboard. Okay.
I wish it did that, but
Okay.
not the other way around. Like for instance, I type in all of my grades, they're separate. I can't do grading on ePortfolio. So
yeah. Great. Thank you once again, Preethi. It's fantastic
having me.
work that it's happening in your area. We're going to shift gears now, and I'm going to hand it over to Praveen from Mathematics, Engineering, and Computer Science Department. Praveen?
Thank you, Pablo. Hello, everyone. So let me share my screen. All right. So I'll start by showing some of the examples to start with. We use a similar kind of approach as Preethi was doing in her major, but we do it slightly different in a computer major. So what we do is like we took a different kind of an approach when we worked on our core ePortfolio. So let me show you an example to start with. So for example, like this would be a ePortfolio of a student who is in their first semester here at LaGuardia. So we start by, so our core ePortfolio template follows something called as something which we call like a digital CV kind of a format. So if you notice, like our first page of students ePortfolio is more about like what you usually see in student CV. So they will have their about me and then their contact, education background, then they start into like any codes, then skills and certifications and work experience. So as I said, like this is an example of our student from their first semester. So we spend a lot more time on making students create their own design so that students kind of take ownership of their ePortfolios, which is one thing that we see lagging before when we kind of provided a template which is already designed. So we spend a lot more time on creating a design of their ePortfolios, and then we put more time into content later throughout the semester. So this is one of the examples, and in our first year seminar, the students would be creating their ePortfolios and then they will be designing their ePortfolios on what should be their backgrounds, what should be the colors, what should be the fonts that they will be doing. And also we introduced them to core competencies that we've assessed here at LaGuardia. So here, under the coursework, it's already populated here. As Preethi mentioned, like they do with their major, we also have assignments populated here, and the students will just go and do the assignment. So each assignment will follow a particular core competency and communication ability. So for example, this one is using integrative learning, and at the same time, it's using a digital competency. So you can see it has a lot of text, images, and links connecting to other pages. And let me go to another one. So this would be an inquiry and problem solving. It's not done by the student yet, but here they will be focusing more on how they communicate their projects orally. And under the planning for success, they do a lot of assessment using career planning. So they talk about like what careers they are interested in, and they post all the research that they find here. So, and also like one other thing that we did for the degree planning here with our students here at, in their first year seminar is like they will be working on creating a degree plan for their entire graduation period here. So let me show you another example of another student. So you can see a major difference. So you can see like every student has their own digital identity in terms of like what is the background colors or what is the background they tend to use. And sure. So one other thing we tried piloting like from the last semester is like when students plan these courses, we asked them to write a brief description about what they think they learned from the other courses that they will be taking. So for example, like the student is taking Math 200, CSF 101 and other classes. So we asked them to write about like what they will be learning in these other classes, because one thing we find, especially from our first year students, is like they kind of lost why they had to take other flexible core or other courses from other majors. So this is how we ask them to find out like what they will be learning. So for example, like what they will be learning in their English 102 class or English 101 class, and how it can be useful for them in the future. So this is all we set up in their first year seminar. So let me show you like how we transition from a first year seminar student to a student who is about to graduate. So so this is another example of a student who is in an advanced class. So if you notice, like their ePortfolio is transitioning from a learning phase or a learning ePortfolio to more towards like a showcase ePortfolio, which they tend to use when they're applying for jobs and transferring to other schools. So if you see, the skill set has increased because like as they take more advanced classes, they will be updating like what skills they have worked on, and if they have worked on any projects, they will be adding it here. So let me show you like how, let me explain like how I'm using these ePortfolios in this pandemic. So the main way, apart from students just posting their work on ePortfolio, the other way I'm doing is like to conduct midterms or high-stake exams using the ePortfolio. So the reason it works for my class, especially for a few of the classes that I teach, is because it's more project-based and not theoretical based, where they have a specific time limit. So for example, like this student is in my application development class. That means they will be developing mobile applications for Android devices. So for example, if you see here, the student has posted his work on his midterm, right? So the way this works properly is because they're going to write the description about their exam project that they will be working on, and they are required to create a video where they will be explaining their project so that they worked on. So this way I will know like they have worked on this exam by themselves, and they will be explaining how the code works in the behind. So they have to create a video, and they have to explain how individual aspects of their exam works. And they also post the code here, so I'll know like if they have worked on this particular exam by themselves or not. And the other way I use the ePortfolio is for creating projects. So this is another way that they will be working on. So what I did was like for the projects, I created scaffolded projects now. So as we cover like different topics within like a 2 weeks gap, they will have to submit their draft projects so that they can actually visualize how they have improved from like their first phase of project to the second phase as they learn more advanced concepts. So till now, like they are in their first phase. So they submit like what the project is about, like what are the different screens and the project they have developed. So the main advantage in terms, so some of the my colleagues asked me like if how do you handle the plagiarism? So because they will be posting the projects, every students can see it. But since, as I said, like this one is more kind of an application development class. So I know like these kind of projects would be available readily online, like if they quickly browse through online. So since they will be creating the videos and since other students will also be commenting on the projects, that means the students will be doing a peer review of other projects. I kind of like see the students are not plagiarizing because it's completely visual to everyone. And if someone manages to do something like sharing something from the other student, I can quickly visualize it. And as long as they are able to, like, even if they plagiarize, it's difficult to change all the icons on an application. So it's completely different to plagiarize theoretical answer versus a project, which is more of an application development, because it's not like you just copy paste it and it's going to be completely different. It's going to be, they have to change a lot more, ton of things to even transition from one project to another one. So as long as they are doing it, they will be learning a lot more things. So let me show you another example of another student. Oh, sorry. All right. Everyone can see my screen, right?
Not yet. I think you stopped the sharing. Maybe you can just
okay.
Share. There
Okay.
you go.
Yeah. So
now we. Yep.
Okay. So this is another student from the same major again, and you can see like as they move to their advanced classes, their ePortfolios change completely different. Like they have more set of skill sets. They have like a certifications. If they worked on, they have more projects. And I chose this student because the student has taken more classes, like one during the summer, which was online as well. So I piloted like to see how the exams work in this class during the summer. This way, like I know like the plagiarism won't work. So the students again did the same thing. They created the project and they posted the video of their project. So I can see their understanding of their project, how they have worked on their project. They will be writing a written description explaining what their project is about. And during the video, they'll have to explain the code as well as the visual elements of their project. So again, as I said, like this might work for some of the classes and it doesn't work for all the classes. So I make it work for the classes which is more hands-on. And the other type of classes, I try to use the only the projects. So same thing here. So here, this was their midterm project for which they created the videos and posted the links. So for some other classes where this doesn't work, like to take the exams, what I did was like I created the scaffolded projects. So for example, here, another student. So what they do is like they will be posting their projects here. So this is a first draft of their project. So over the next few weeks, what they'll do is like they will be adding more implementation to their projects that they will be working on and posting it here. So they can actually visualize how the project can be done in different steps as it's done in real world. And at the same time, when they share it to their employers, it's going to be quite evident on how they have transitioned from like an early stage of the project to the final stage of the project. And all these steps are required when they are working on real world projects as well. So that should be it. So if you have any questions, I can answer.
Thank you so much, Praveen. That really is fantastic work that you're doing in your area. We have time for a question or a brief comment in response to what we've heard from Praveen. Anybody? And again, you can use the chat or you can unmute your microphone if you'd like. One thing that I want to point out, unless anybody wants to jump in, is how Praveen's example, and we also saw this in Preethi, the platform itself allows for for students to develop their digital skills and add videos, add text, add code, which really speaks about the multimodal aspect and approach that that the ePortfolio practice can provide faculty. So it's obviously evident when you see those visually powerful portfolios, very distinct and powerful in natural sciences as they are in computer science. But that's something worth mentioning, because sometimes it's so obvious that we don't say that out loud. But the platform really does provide those opportunities for students.
Just so that I let you know again, one more thing is like it worked very well with the projects, especially the final projects of their classes, because before I used to use the Blackboard, and none of the students know like what's going on with the other students unless or till the point they go and do the presentations. But now, since we are using the ePortfolio, every student can see what other students are working on and what are the different things they are doing. This way, like they know, like I see like they are becoming more competitive as well, in terms of like they want to add more. Like when I was using Blackboard, they try to keep it minimal, but now I see like they try to expand their projects. So it actually works a lot better now.
And the students take ownership, and that is what it's important,
Right.
and that's what defines the ePortfolio practice. Praveen, thank you so much for sharing all of this work. We're going to shift gears now, and I'm going to hand it over to Leah Richards from the English department, who will show us the work that she's doing in her area. Leah.
Hey, I am actually, although I am English faculty, I am talking about liberal arts. I work, those of you who don't know me, I work with liberal arts advising and the liberal arts working group pretty significantly, and I teach both the FYS and the capstone class for liberal arts, social science, and humanities majors. So Preethi and Praveen gave us these presentations on student, the ePortfolio for and of students who are focused, they have a plan in mind, they're in a discipline that has a plan in mind, and everything, I think we saw, when things go well, this is how they go. So welcome to LIF 101, the first year seminar for liberal arts, social science, and humanities majors. Students in the liberal arts options, which include deaf studies, film and television, history, international studies, Japanese, journalism, Latin American studies, political science, women, gender, and sexuality studies, and philosophy majors, and new media technology majors, and some fine arts majors who are on old catalogs. So I have a class full of these students, and a lot of these students, they don't, they're not in if they're liberal arts, social science, and humanities majors, they may have chosen that because LaGuardia doesn't have their future major, but they may also be doing it because they came in and when they were asked what they wanted to do, they said, oh no. So there's definitely, it's a different type of student population with this, particularly in the fall of 2020 and under distance learning. Now, so under liberal arts, there's so much flexibility that there's not a whole lot of opportunity to assign universal ePortfolio assignments. We see them in the first year seminar, we see them in the capstone, we see them in English 103, but they're not all going to be liberal arts, social science, and humanities majors. They could be criminal justice majors. So it's so one of the things I was trying to do with creating the class ePortfolio and the ePortfolio assignments for my students was to create a culture of revisiting and updating and working with your ePortfolio unprompted. So really trying to create that. Like Preethi, I have a class ePortfolio. Mine is very basic. It is very simple. I wanted to provide an accessible online space. Like Preethi, I went with the ePortfolio. That's it. That is all we use in my first year seminar. Yes, we use Zoom, but everything is on the ePortfolio. I also wanted to have a space that could start the process of encouraging, as I said, that culture of revisiting and updating your ePortfolio. and wanted to also create a space that was, this is something I think we've all been through, pedagogy, online pedagogy courses ourselves, where we're told, it's important, let the students know who you are, create community, everything like that. So I, of course, those of you who know me, know that I have a little bit of a tendency to put skulls on anything that I can. And so just kind of made my ePortfolio a little bit my own to introduce myself to the students and to show that the ePortfolio can be customizable. Now, an unanticipated element of this was that I had students who showed up in the 5th week of class, in the first year seminar. Oh, I didn't know when classes started. Oh, well, you didn't come to my house and show me how to log on to Zoom. This actually, I was really glad I put together the ePortfolio that I did, because it meant that students had everything they needed to try to make up what they had missed. The purpose of that initially was not, oh, well, students can skip half the semester and catch up just fine. It was simply to allow for the students who weren't fully focused during class because of outside circumstances, students who couldn't attend 1 week, students who missed, just wanted to see all of the assignments listed, anything like that. But I should actually very quickly say, as I'm sharing my screen too, I see my first year seminar students, the students who I have this ePortfolio for. I see them, I divided them into groups. They go to studio hour for an hour every week, and then they meet with me in smaller groups 1 day a week. So in class, we have discussions about content, and then they can go to the ePortfolio to do deeper dives into stuff. So you can see my computer screen.
Yes.
Okay, so just very quickly, I just kind of wanted to show the things that I put on here and just quickly cover how this made it possible, both for students to keep up in the class, revisit the work that they needed to do, and even the students who attend every week, how this supported them. So this just, the welcome, the introduction, the Slack links, the acknowledgement that distance learning is not ideal, a little bit about the class, high points of the syllabus, and then the embedded syllabus itself. My SSM provides links to the Zoom meetings. She has editing permissions here too, so she uploads and publishes those each week. And then what I did was each week they can just go here and they go to the week and they see what did we do in class, if there was anything we shared or that they need to see. I link to everything. Then what they need to complete before the next studio hour with a link to the assignment, what they need to do before the next studio hour with links, and oftentimes they have readings as well, and those will be linked there. And then at the bottom, just every week, try to do just a reminder or a question of some kind. Have you registered? Chin up, you're amazing. Whatever it needs to be. So that's the general, but then they can also just go straight to the advisement topics or the ePortfolio assignments. And the advisement topics is just each week, whatever it is we did, they click on it. It takes them directly to the slideshow in presentation mode, so that they actually flip through the entire slideshow. And they just, they can get the recap of everything that they need with links embedded. That's very basic. The ePortfolio assignments, though, this is the page that students use the most. They've been telling me. This is every ePortfolio assignment. I tell them what they need to do, if it differs at all from the standard ePortfolio prompt, where they need to post it, what they need to change, what they need to do when they go back to their ePortfolio later, and how to approach all of that. And this was intended to be the visual for students who couldn't make a studio hour or fell behind or anything like that. So just a quick show one of those. So this is the transfer one. All of them are uniform. It tells them what to do. If it is similar to the ePortfolio assignment, I tell them that. If they need to go to anything, even if it's linked in the ePortfolio template or instructions, I still provide a link to it so they can prepare everything, even if suddenly they can't log into their ePortfolio or anything like that. And then they do the steps that they need to do in advance, then they do the written or planning work, and then tell them, as I said, just post in studio hour, and then telling them if it is the prompt that's on the ePortfolio or if not, because I had faced student confusion who were like, but the ePortfolio said this and you said this, and it's always close, but I try to provide that clarification as well. And then just show them that this is, if you click on this, then you click on this, then this is what comes up, and walk them through. Some of these visuals are actually, arrows all over the place and everything like that, but telling them, type your own title in this space, add your content here, add a visual here, ask someone how to embed your video here if you are not sure. Things like that. So I give them that. And then we end with a looking ahead, where I remind them that on their own, they need to revisit their ePortfolio once a semester at least. They need to add their syllabi from every class. They need to add their major assignments from those classes, especially the ones they're particularly proud of. They need to revisit their goals. They need to revise things, remembering that this is their forward-facing story of their journey. And that, there will be points, some of the slideshows, some of the ePortfolio assignments even say, you are doing this now. At the end of your first year, you will do the assignment underneath it. And then at the end of your second year, you will do the next assignment. So just telling them everything that is coming up, with the goal of encouraging the culture of regularly updating your ePortfolio of your own volition, if it's not something that you're asked to do within a class. Next semester, I'm teaching an LIF again. I want to do more with separate pages and embedding things. I'd actually like them to not have to go, not even click a link and go to another window. So I'm going to start embedding the slideshows and things like that. And I do plan to follow up with a group of these students, because they are liberal arts majors, kind of tracking them and just, hey, remember you took me for first year seminar. We talked about your ePortfolio. How you doing on that? And just, the ones who I think will be receptive to it, who will appreciate that little extra push. Last thing I have on the ePortfolio page is just very simple list of, okay, these are the things that need to be on here at a specific time. And then the completed ePortfolio and things like that. So again, as I said, very simple, very basic, but with the goal of making this the materials for class and the work they're doing on their ePortfolio as accessible as possible to students who may not have the focus that we see in some of the other majors. And happy to answer any questions. I just realized I love them all. They are wonderful. They are adorable. They are the best. They just sometimes need a little push to focus. So thanks a lot.
Thank you, Leah. It's fantastic, and certainly a different approach to how you have used ePortfolio, especially in the liberal arts. Does anybody have any quick questions or a comment for Leah after hearing her presentation? One thing that I mentioned on the chat is Leah briefly mentioned and displayed the planning for success section, which is a comprehensive section of the template that offers students information and activities to do around advisement, transfer, and career readiness. And this is one of the signature ways in which ePortfolio at LaGuardia is defined, because it's more than a repository for classwork and reflection, but it's an opportunity for students to think about those key milestones, especially those who have begun in the first year seminar, as we saw in Preethi's case in natural sciences, subsequently in Praveen's in computer science, and the same case with Leah in liberal arts.
I should add, I saw Tanya was in here earlier. She and I and a few other people were on a team of faculty who worked on those planning for success and making connections to create uniform prompts that would work in some form for every major across the college, and encourage students to revisit regularly. So I am deeply, deeply invested in students going back, so that my work summer of 2019 was not for nothing.
It certainly pays off. Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, Leah. Thank you for sharing all of that. And I'm going to shift gears now and hand it over to Professor Michele de Goeas-malone from Education. Michele?
Thank you, Pablo. First, I want to say thank you to all the presenters who've gone before. I love coming to these things because I can learn so much from you guys. Thank you very much. I'm just going to start by sharing my screen. Hold on. Oops, not that. Not that. Oops.
There you go.
Thank you. So the presenters who came before kind of set me up, you know, they've given a lot of background information that I don't have to really explain, because I'm going to be talking about a first year seminar in education. Specifically, I'm going to be talking about the ePortfolio integrative digital assignment that we call the Dream Deferred. And I just want to give a shout out to Caterina Almandral and Pablo Avila. We all teach the class, and we've spent a lot of time with each other over the last few semesters because of COVID, and, you know, just, it's like one big brain that's produced this. I think it's the best way I can say this. So this particular assignment started off as an in-class activity in which we read things, we read Langston Hughes's Harlem. We discussed the historical context of the poem. We read, and I'm going to say part of that is because we have students who come in from, you know, they're immigrants. They don't always know what's going, you know, what's the history of America. I know as an immigrant myself, I didn't know. We then followed up with Latson Billings' Dream Deferred chapter. And it's, you know, it's a very meaningful piece if you're in teacher education. And then as a class, what we did is we created these Exploding a Dream posters and as a group project. The overall purpose of this assignment was to introduce integrative learning through cross-disciplinary connections, specifically English literature, history, education, and their personal experiences, specifically in education, understanding what cultural responsive pedagogy is and understanding what the educational inequalities are. And I you know, when Praveen mentioned that students didn't know how the courses were connected, this was sort of like the underlying reason that I did this activity. And then in the spring of 2020, when COVID happened, we sort of, as a group, started figuring out how are we going to change this to an online sort of asynchronous hybrid activity. For me, I teach primarily asynchronous. I meet with my students now. This semester, I meet with them once a week. But we sort of moved all of these activities on, for at least for me, onto my asynchronous part. And we added a few things as we talked, you know, it's sort of like having that virtual hallway where we talk back and forth. You know, this would be a great thing to add. You know, Pablo brought up, you know, it'd be nice to make a connection to a school narrative. Instead of working, we couldn't have that classroom activity, but we were able to use Google Slides and have them have a visual representation of what it means to have a dream deferred. And that was also a time when we could sort of scaffold the digital communication. Here's a visual that goes with text, because you have to explain what that, why you chose that image. And we also talked about this. So we did a lot of scaffolding throughout the semester. And then as we started talking, I really did not like our original assessment for integrative learning and digital communication. And we thought that this piece would be a really good piece to use. So we designed the assignment. We added one more documentary for them to look at and asked them to connect it to that. And I'll show you the assignment itself, what we asked for, and then I'll show you some samples towards the end. It's also an ideal assignment for, they've been working on digital communication in Studio Hour. The assignment itself, the activity draws on a lot of imagery. So we had that, with their visual representation. And again, the ePortfolio helps us to put together all of these, multimedia elements, text, images, and videos. And I'll add here that I teach the capstone course, so I know what kind of skills I want them coming in to my capstone course in the next, this is like what, 3 semesters down the line. In the fall, just to tell you, we've done some, we're piloting this in all of our sections now. And, that's about it. We added a few more things. So I think I will get to what they see. So this is what they see. I work with both Blackboard and ePortfolio. I used to be all ePortfolio, but then for me, when we had the switch over, I needed to find a way to assess my students with quick knowledge checks. And there's a lot of learning modules. So I needed to use both of them. So this is the assignment itself. This is what we asked them to do. We asked them to review everything we've done for the semester, all the connections we've been making, all the scaffolding, and then we tell them to watch this video. We asked them to do the rereadings. This semester we used a Padlet, and here is what it is. So it's starting to build that digital communication skills. These are all their pictures that they chose. And let's see. Yes, and we tell them, here's a picture of exactly where you'll find. So we walk them through, similar to Leah, but not as specific in the slides. But I do a lot of pictures and I do a lot of videos of how to do things on ePortfolio as well. And here I give them a sample of what my expectations are and what it looks like. So I tell them, put your picture up here. I have a video or instructions when I see them, put your picture up here, your dream deferred picture that you talked about in that prior assignment. And then, this is going to be used to assess integrative and digital communication. Make sure all through the semester they've been building their identity. I love zombies, so that's why there's zombies there. It's all connected to education as well, but I can tell you that story later. And then, so I give them, instructions of what I'm expecting, how many words, etc. And I want to just mention before I start showing, I have some second language learners in my class. There is no prerequisite for language. So I'm very specific about anything, that I expect in terms of what a Americanized essay would look like, as opposed to someone coming from a different culture. So I thought I would show you with that the examples of students' work. So here's an example of a dream deferred. And what I loved about this is if you look at the picture, there's something very simple, subtle about it. If you look at the hands, they're reaching, what are we always doing? We're reaching for our dreams. So they started to pick up some of these subtle skills as we went along. This particular student made a strong connection to what is going on in the school, especially as a parent. And then I have another one here. This picture actually shows up a lot. So I think when you Google dream deferred, this is a picture that comes up very frequently. So I've seen it a lot. Here is a student who is a secondary ed student with a concentration in math. And you can see what he's got going on in the background, just because we've also been working on it, is he's got the blue color scheme. So he's keeping things, he's developing those digital skills, or at least those visual skills at the same time. And I like the fact that he bolded this particular part, that segregated schools are inherently unequal. So he really understood, the readings that we were doing, and he got, the intent. he made that connection that I was expecting. And then here's Genesis. I love hers. You know, again, this is, you know, her whole connection and her dream deferred. She didn't change the title, but that's fine. Genesis is a second language learner as well. So, you know, this is like really impressive work for someone that is a second language learner. And then the final one that I'm going to show you is Kathy. And I really like another second language learner in the class. And what I really love about Kathy's is two things. One, I love the picture of her looking out into the sunset where her dreams are. And I love the fact that she found a video of the Harlem poem that explains to the audience a little more, or gives the audience a little more background. And I think, you know, I'm going to end there, and I'm just going to leave you with her words right at the end. We have to remember this happened during COVID, and at the end of hers, you know, you know, she pretty much says, I hope one day their dream can come true and no more deferred. And that just, you know, just makes me feel more positive when I see it. And I guess that's what I wanted to share with you. And why can't I find anybody? I'm going to stop sharing.
Thank you so much, Michele. That really was inspiring, and especially during times of COVID, the students' reflections are very, very interesting. Thank you. Our next presenter will be Dominique Zino, whom I'm going to hand it over to, unless someone has a quick question or comment for Michele. Okay, Dominique.
Thanks, Pablo. Can everyone hear me? I have a lot of background noise on my end.
We can hear you clearly so far.
Okay.
Yep.
We can hear you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to share my screen. It was really great to hear from everyone so far. We have all sort of such different but also overlapping practices, and Pablo and Michele and I have been co-leading our Center for Teaching and Learning's ePortfolio seminar, and many of the people here are in that seminar. And so this is really like some great material to bring back into those meetings. Okay, let me.
And while Dominique is sharing her screen, remember you can use a chat feature in case you would like to raise any questions. At the end, we will have a few minutes for discussion.
Great. Okay, can everyone see that clearly?
Yes, we can.
Great. Okay, so I'm going to be talking about using ePortfolios in a first-year learning community. I teach in learning communities pretty regularly, and they've, for a long time, been a pretty central part of pedagogy at LaGuardia. In the past, sometimes there have been complications with them running, but I think we have actually figured out a way, as Leah probably knows well, to get them a little bit, to help them to become more stable and to have them overlap with the types of courses that students need every semester. So this semester, I am for the first time working with a group of health science majors. And our learning community is called Healthy Care, Becoming a Well-Rounded Healthcare Professional. My course is English 101, and it's paired with general psychology and with the first year seminar for health science majors. So you can see our schedule here. The goal of the learning community is to combine a convenient schedule for students with integrated assignments and class activities. So I'll say just a little bit about those today while I'm speaking. But we really want the students to not only learn our individual content and skills in each class, but to make connections across the courses. And I've seen over time that ePortfolio has been really helpful for this. And perhaps neutral than during the pandemic, because this has shifted our orientation entirely. We no longer have the classroom as our central meeting place. And now the place that I go to reconnect with my students is their ePortfolio. And I've seen a shift in their practice as well. So I'll say a bit more about that. So first, I'd like you to meet Christiana. Christiana is one of this in our learning community. Christiana grew up in a household of nurses. Her parents are nurses, her cousins are nurses, her siblings are nurses. Prior to LaGuardia, she interned at New York Presbyterian Allen Hospital, which is in northern Manhattan. It serves Inwood and Riverdale and the Bronx. And she was part of a program called New York Peers. And as an intern, she got to shadow a number of healthcare professionals. She learned about different types of jobs at the hospital. And she also, in her About Me statement, wrote about how she saw empathy as a really important part of this work. In our learning community, my role is really to read material with students and get them to write about the sort of soft skills and concepts that complement the scientific knowledge that they're gathering from general psychology and from the first year seminar in the health sciences. And so she talked about developing her sense of empathy and seeing that at work in patient-doctor relationships during this experience. And that experience I could see later shaped her interests in terms of developing a research project. So as you can see on this screen, Christiana is developing the structure for the English 101 section of her ePortfolio, and then specifically for her digital research essay. So the digital research essay is the main integrated assignment in the learning community. It pulls from all 3 classes, but is a specific graded assignment, high stakes writing assignment in English 101 and in SSY 101, which is the general psychology course. So Christiana knows going into this that she is going to create this assignment for both courses and that it will be read by both professors. She knows that we're looking for different things. I'm looking for her ability to integrate research, for writing process, for structure and organization. The psychology professor is looking more for her ability to apply psychological concepts to her subject matter. So we've come up with a structure together in a template that I built on ePortfolio that we think works for this integrated assignment. And Christiana has imported that template into her own ePortfolio. Prior to starting the integrated assignment, all the students do a research proposal. This is another template that I built, pretty basic, in the ePortfolio platform. But what I'm starting to see here, in particular this semester, is that students are taking ownership over their assignments in the ePortfolio platform. So here's one example. I put a lot of emphasis on writing process. So all assignments in ePortfolio go through a drafting phase, they receive feedback, and then students revise. So when Christiana was revising her proposal about studying healthcare access for women of color, she created this key at the top. This is not something that I asked her to do, but she had intuited that because we were talking so much about revision, it would be good to highlight the things that she actually revised and how she was responding to my comments. Other students did this as well. I know they have a chat going outside of that I'm not on and none of the professors are on. So maybe something happened there where they thought, you know, this would be a good idea, but I was just really impressed with the audience awareness that is required to sort of say, oh, the goal of this assignment is to show that I've fine-tuned my research topic, my research question that I've revised. Let me show you how I did that by creating this key. So I just want to, I know I only have a minute or 2 left. I just want to reinforce sort of why this has been, why ePortfolio in general is sort of a perspective shift, and why in particular in a remote learning situation, this has been such an important shift. For students, I think that they now see how they can present their work to multiple audiences, especially in our learning community situation. And they see multiple faculty members asking to view their ePortfolio and then leaving comments on their ePortfolio. So they're really interacting with multiple audiences. They're managing multiple sets of expectations, especially for integrated assignment, and they are being reminded of those expectations, and they're sort of making sense of them gradually. And I'm seeing that reflected in the way that they're developing their work and the way they're consulting both myself and Tomoe Mamichi during this process to get feedback on their topics, to make sure that we're all on the same page. As I just showed with Christiana, I'm seeing a deeper sense of audience awareness in terms of the digital product that they create. And I'm seeing just more ownership of their digital spaces and assignments, just in terms of design, and in terms of, again, their awareness of the writing process. Some of my students choose to post their draft as a Google Doc, knowing that I'm going to comment and leave feedback, and then they will import the final directly into the ePortfolio template. These are things they've decided to do on their own, but it shows me sort of a way that they're internalizing the process. For faculty, I think that there's a deeper understanding, or a chance at least for deeper understanding of students' prior experiences, motivations, and interests, a chance to connect with their prior knowledge, especially for a group of students who, for the first time ever in my teaching career, I've never gotten to meet in person. And we're all sort of mourning that, but the ePortfolio has been a way for us to connect and a way for me to really get to know them, even more important than in the spring, where I at least got to meet them for a couple of weeks before we went remote. There's been a deeper understanding for me of curricula in other departments. As someone who's interested in writing across the curriculum, this has been really beneficial for me to see what the assignment structure is in HSF, the first year seminar for the health sciences, and in the psychology course. And it's helped me to create a better integrated writing or integrative writing assignment. And then finally, the students' work has been what is centrally visible. So again, coming back to where I started, rather than the classroom being our central meeting place, which is wonderful and which we all miss, the thing that sometimes gets lost there is that we have this connection, but I don't know how students are learning, what they're learning, and what they produce is always secondary to that classroom experience in a lot of ways, or it's always on the side of that. Here, what they're producing is really centralized, and it's visible and accessible by everyone in the community, students and faculty members alike. And that's just really been a game changer in terms of seeing their learning and seeing them develop. And I hope that maybe I have some future ePortfolio scholars in this group, we'll see. But regardless there, I'm really happy with what I see in terms of their development. So thank you. That's all for me. I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you very much, Dominique, for sharing all of this work. I'm cognizant of the time, and I am going to hand it over to Jessica. But one thing that I did want to point out, and I think you've exemplified this really well, Dominique, it's how the portfolios, especially during times when we don't get to meet students face-to-face, really become a window to get to know them. And it was really exemplary how you described Christiana and spoke about her as if you had been in the classroom with her, but all you have is her ePortfolio. And I think that's something that's worth mentioning. And I think we've seen this in all of the examples, in all of the disciplines, but yours in particular. So thank you for sharing that. I'm gonna hand it over finally to, last but not least, Professor Jessica Boehman from the Humanities Department. Jessica?
Hi, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so actually I think this works out well because I had decided to talk today more about how ePortfolio has benefited me as a professor during this time of distance learning. I've always been using ePortfolio for many years since I started at LaGuardia, but my practice has become more robust in recent years. And with the transition, the subtle and, or excuse me, the abrupt transition into distance learning last semester, I was so thankful that I had incorporated this sort of practice into my own professional work, because it made it a lot simpler for me. And since the students were already used to working in this platform for me, it made it a lot simpler for them as well. So what I wanted to do just very quickly is show you how I'm using the ePortfolio for the asynchronous portion of my classes. I also meet with each class for about an hour in a synchronous session each week via Zoom, where I record the session that we have, and then I post it to that week's page on the ePortfolio. So they have access to everything if they get sick or they have to go to work or something like that. And that way the students are not falling behind in the way that they would if I were not working in this manner. So I'm going to share my screen. And I have a couple different things that I want to show. I'm going to show very quickly 2 class ePortfolios and a couple of examples from students. Now, I have actually not done as much work with my students during the distance learning in ePortfolio, simply to just simplify a little bit, because normally the work that I ask them to do is quite complex in the ePortfolio. We built up entire portfolios, entire websites from a professional standpoint. And that was just one thing that felt like it was too much, considering that we don't have access to the computer labs right now with the scanners. We don't have access to our cameras to photograph professionally. And I guess I should say that I teach in fine arts and art history. So this is a big, the loss of being able to work with the students in the labs has really made a big difference in the way that I've been able to teach and the sorts of things I've been able to teach. I want to show you a page that I just made this summer, so you get a sense of what something that's completely fresh looks like. This is a class that I haven't taught in about 5 years. And we took a seminar over the summer where they suggested having a landing page that gives students all the different information in one place about what the expectations are for online learning. So that is the welcome page for the students. There's everything that they need to know. Of course, the syllabus is included with all of the information that they need to know, and a class schedule that lets them know if they're in each week, what they need to do before they come into class, what's due, etc. But then the beef of the information is here and here in the online courses. So I'll give you an example. So this is one of the pages that I made for my week 5, a lecture on Michelangelo, young Michelangelo. So you see that I'm able to design each page, each class page the same way. So we have this repetition, so students understand exactly where to find everything. There are objectives, vocabulary, the link to their homework, and an external questions page on Google Docs where they can ask any questions that they have about the lectures, and sign up for office hours. And of course, the sign up for the Zoom meeting built in to every page. I generally start each class with a little bit of music from that time period, and the multimodal aspects of ePortfolio allow me to add videos from YouTube or other content. So they're able to get themselves back in the time of the late 1400s. And then as you scroll down, they're able to see each little video that I want them to watch with any other instructions that they may have. When we get down to the end, I add any announcements that they need for that particular week so that they're able to see it. This was for a portfolio review day that we had. And then at the end of each class, I do upload um, the lecture that we just had. All of their homework can be found in here as well. And so you go through here and there, every information that they need is uploaded here. I work without textbooks at this point, especially now when so many people are out of work. So the ePortfolio allows me to add all of that content. Just let me show you, because I know we only have a few minutes. My students use the ePortfolio to make journals, and they use it for visual arts as well. So this is an example of one of my students who was working on his journals for the history of design class. And just to give you a sense that One of the challenges for them was to also think about web design as they make each page. And he really was pushing himself to create something that matches his own aesthetic as a designer. And the ePortfolio allowed them to be completely customizable. And he came up with something super clean that you might not know was an ePortfolio at all in the way that he designed it. For my illustration class, it's set up in exactly the same way, but I'm able to add, instead of lectures, I add demonstrations that I can do from Photoshop, from Procreate on my iPad, and so I add those up onto here. But the students generally would be making a whole artist website as part of this particular course, where they start off with an about me, that leads into more information about them if you click. Oh, sorry, actually it starts here. This is his opening page. You click and it goes into the about me. But the students who do this sort of work, building up a whole professional website in their illustration class, they take that into the capstone and are more successful in the capstone. Nowadays, we start with the Fine Arts ePortfolio, that template that I built for them. And then they can pare it down by the end of the capstone, hiding any pages that they don't need so that they have an outward facing portfolio by the end of it. But you can see that the work they're doing is beautiful. It allows them to add their own personal work in galleries and whatnot. And it has allowed them to start to get their work out there in the world in the way that they wouldn't have been if I hadn't been pushing them to have a digital web presence so hard in my courses. I see that we're out of time, so sorry I only got a few minutes to talk to you guys, but I don't know if anybody has any questions.
This is great, Jessica. Thank you. Thank you for sharing this work. I do have a few final comments, but I want to open it up in case anybody has any general questions, comments, reactions to Jessica's work, but also all of the presentations we've heard.
Yeah, Pablo, I just want to say, I mean, it was fantastic just seeing all of the range of portfolios and across the range of classes as well. I was thinking about this, Jessica, when you were showing those last ones, and then I wonder how it applies for everyone, that especially for those last, so for the artists and for those courses in the capstone. I was thinking about the student learning piece where it's visual and the representation of their visual work, especially for that last capstone class. I was wondering about this question of like student learning over the course of their degree or in the course of a class, you know, what gets represented in what we, I think, are drawn to visually, but then in terms of their writing, their reflection, they're playing with concepts. I know that Michele showed some of that where the student highlighted something about segregation. You know, how are we sort of assessing that learning piece of it beyond what strikes us primarily in the visual aspect and components of the portfolio to the level of their reflection and their deeper learning?
So for my courses and for the capstone both, we push them to do written assignments that match up with their artworks. For me, what I do is a series of blog posts, because that's something that you're actually going to do in the real world as an artist, and that's how people find you. Is that you have to learn to be able to talk about your work that tells it as a story, shows how you learned, how you problem solved. This is what we do for our inquiry and problem solving assignments, for instance, in this class. In the capstone, they are working on building that up for the integrative assignments as well, where we see them looking back to other skills they learned in other courses and how they're tying it together once they reach that capstone. So we are working really hard to make sure that the students can communicate effectively as artists, and the visual art is not the only way that they do that. So the digital skills are one way, but the written skills are another. And of course, we're encouraging them to use video or audio to talk about their works as well, so that we're trying to tie together all of those abilities in a way that will prepare them for being the professional artist and the skills that they need to have as a professional artist when they enter into the real world.
Yeah, thank you.
I think one also major takeaway, in addition to the student learning that we've seen in all of these examples, is the carefully designed pages that all of the presenters have shown, especially during distance learning, all the way from Preethi natural sciences, placing links for every week so that students are able to go from one page to the next, to Leah posting links specifically for advisement content, to the assignments that Michele in education developed, and even to Jessica presenting not only context for that period in time, but also even music. I think the portfolio has allowed for all of those opportunities for faculty to help students navigate distance learning, which became a big challenge when we had to move to it rather quickly in the spring. But little by little, we've had to grapple with it and find best ways to navigate. And the portfolio has been a great opportunity for that. I want to thank all of the presenters, first of all, for taking their time during their busy schedules, for not only accepting this invitation, but also taking the time to pull out examples and taking the time to be here with us. We really are grateful for your work, and we continue to support it as we move along. I also want to thank our colleagues from Digication. Jeff Yang was also here, other colleagues from Digication. I'm sorry if I'm not mentioning everyone, but people from outside the college. I saw Karen and Matt from SBS. I saw a couple of other people from outside LaGuardia. We want to thank them all for taking the time to join the event and for learning about what LaGuardia faculty are doing. So Eric, is there anything else that you would like to say at the end?
No, I just thank you, Pablo. Folks have been writing this in the chat, and to the whole portfolio team. I know supporting all of this, everything takes twice as long in a distance learning environment. So thanks for putting this on, and everyone for joining.
Thank you so very much. And I want to say that this session has been recorded and will be made available on YouTube. We'll send an email to everyone who registered, and you'll be able to access all of these resources. Once again, thank you to everyone, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.